And we're live streaming.
All right, great. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's call the meeting to order, and Councilman Shaid, if you give us a small message during this Easter season.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
I'm honored to do that, and this is going to sound like a repeat performance, Councilman wearing, but I think y'all can bear with me. That as I stated at the real estate committee meeting earlier today, that this is a week in which several religions, traditions of reconciliation, peace, respect that we're supposed to have for one another is universal in our various traditions throughout the universe. However, what we have observed, unfortunately, is that in spite of that, those traditions and the goodwill that we're supposed to be generating among all of us, we're seeing the exact opposite. There's violence in our local community. There's violence internationally, sometimes in the name of religion. This is not where we want to be. So we ask the Almighty to give us wisdom, to give us strength, to try to find that common ground that we need among all of us to do the work of the people. And we ask for his intervention and direction. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman Shaid. Entertain a motion for the approval of the March 27th minutes.
Move for approval.
Probably moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Appel. Any questions on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Would you please say aye?
Aye.
Thank you. We're down to item E1. I'm sorry, Barberry Woods, right to an easement. Is that Mr. O'Brien?
Mr. Chairman, this is the acceptance for permanent drainage easement in conjunction with a drainage improvement project in Barberry Woods. I know Matt's spoken to the committee about this before, and I want to know if he'd like to add anything to that. We'd be recommending for that acceptance.
All right, Mr. Fountain.
I think Mr. O'Brien did a great job summarizing it. This is the HOA property, and the HOA agreeing to give us a gratis easement for furtherance of the stormwater improvement project.
All right, great. What's the pleasure of the body?
No move.
Second.
Probably moved and seconded. Any more discussion on it? Hearing none, all in favor, would you please say aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. O'Brien, all the items on the F, temporary encroachments, are there anything unusual there that needs to be?
We have irrigation, a right angle sign, and a fence, and all of them have been inspected and recommended for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Well, that's normally just for information. So
Yes, sir.
thank you, Mr. O'Brien. G1, environmental services update, Mr. O'Brien or Mr. Alltop? Mr. Alltop.
I'd like to make an announcement to the committee. As effective this past Monday, Matt Alltop has been named as the Deputy Director of Public Service Department, which we're very happy and proud of. Very well-deserved honor. He's worked very hard and worked his way into this position, and has been my right-hand man since I've had the job. And I'm very proud and happy to have him as my assistant now as a Deputy Director. And with that, I'm going to ask him to give you guys the environmental services update.
Well, at first, I want to thank you, Mr. O'Brien, for your compliments to the job that Mr. Alltop is doing. I think we all feel the same way. Congratulations, Mr. Alltop, and look forward to you continuing the high professionalism that you've done with all your time with us. So thank you for what you do, Mr. Alltop. Congratulations.
Thank you guys for that. Thanks, Tom. So environmental service, garbage, trash is on schedule. Finished on schedule last week. And we are starting to see a rise in yard waste and bulk material. The season is here. Still running on time. I don't anticipate us getting behind this week or next. They actually got ahead today and was able to start on Tuesday routes, which will go back through tomorrow. So some positive news there. The new Rec Collect app, we're anticipating May, June launch for that. So that'll be coming here shortly. They're developing the app now, so hopefully we'll have something to bring back and show you guys here in the next couple weeks.
Okay, great. Any questions from committee members? Councilmember Shea.
My phone has gotten silent on this issue, and that's always a good sign, Matt. So thank you.
Agree with that one. Councilman Bowden, Pell, or the mayor, any questions? All right, great.
Just great job, Matt. Keep up the good work. Well-deserved promotion, and my phone is conspicuously silent as well on those issues. So keep it up.
Thank
Good
you.
news.
Hopefully we can keep that going for you guys.
Yeah, sure. G2 request of, Third Avenue issue.
Members of the committee, you all at our last meeting, this item was on there and we asked it to be deferred at the request of the Gladsteins. And I'm just going to, Mr. Gladstein is on the line. Julia's going to share her screen. What we've had here is a request to place a fence/gate in the Third Avenue right of way behind 208 Gordon Street, which is the Gladsteins' residence. The original application they sent us was to have a wooden fence, but Mr. Gladstein sent me an email today, and actually what he's asking for is they want to have a chain link fence go across that area. At the direction of the mayor and the committee last time, we talked to Jason Kronsberg with our Parks Department, and also I talked to Deputy Chief Thompson with the Police Department to find out any information we could regarding the status of activity in that area. Dustin and his crew with the Police Department gave us an outstanding report. And for information for the committee, one thing in the area, in that area of 3rd Avenue and Wagner, from April 1st, 22 to April 2nd, 23, in the full area, there were 46 calls for service, 7 at the corner. There were 5 incidents and just 1 at that specific corner. So the activity in the scheme of the complete police activity in the area is very low. And I just wanted to pass that information on. The mayor had asked that we requested, and Chief Thompson and the police department gave us some excellent information on that. We've spoken to Jason. This is for people who have not been back there. This is an unimproved public right of way. It's what we sometimes refer to as a paper street. It abuts the marsh. There is some erosion and some areas where the marsh is creeping up into the actual right of way. And it's just one of these areas that the Public Service Department, in conjunction with the legal department, Parks Department, and the mayor's office, that we just want to make sure, and it may not be next week, next year, in the next few years, but the giving up the use of city property for any activity that is not behavior of the city, i.e. for a park or drainage or any other thing, is something we've just decided we don't want to do. So the recommendation after reviewing with staff and looking at the activity provided to the police department and speaking with the Parks Department, we're recommending denial. And Mr. Chairman, if it would be okay, I would like to ask Mr. Gladstein, the applicant is online, and I think it would be just fair to give him the opportunity to tell you and the committee his reasons, if you so desire.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Mr. Gladstein, gotten emails from you, so I certainly would like to hear from you.
Sure, and thank you. And by the way, I wasn't prepared to say anything. I was actually told I wasn't allowed to at this particular meeting, that we should talk to the council members. But first off, we've had some theft incidents, and just to clarify where you were drawing that line, that's not behind our property. There's actually 3 properties on the right of way there until you get to ours. Ours is the 3rd, to clarify. Yeah, that's ours right there. All the people that joined the row, we sent a letter to the city council and to the city, all saying that, hey, look, none of us really want to support increased public access back there. There was a proposal to have that. We've had quite a bit of theft, myself and the Hofstroms, our neighbors. I'm not a guy who picks up the phone and calls the police. If I get a bike stolen, I'm not filling out a report to have police officers over there. If I knew that was going to be relevant in this meeting, I would have done it, and you guys would have had quite a few items on that police report list. So I don't think that clean police report list is really reflective of actually what's going on back there. I'm just not someone who's going to waste their time. The most amount of time I spent with the police was when my dog got out and they found him down at Lowndes Grove and called me. So that was kind of the extent of our activity there. One of the things is that our focus on this preservation. the city basically has ignored this particular easement or this right of way, sorry. And we know that because we've never as long as we've lived there, seen anyone from the city back there. There's not, weekly, monthly, yearly inspections going on back there. There's been quite a bit of erosion, so much that in the last few hurricanes, we've lost some major trees back there as the marsh has creeped into the right of way. One of them was probably a 200-year-old live oak that fell into our yard. 2 years ago, another series of trees fell. And in the last hurricane, a series of trees fell and smashed my fence. All of those were on city property. If the city was back there maintaining and taking care of that and preventing erosion back there, those trees wouldn't have fell. There's probably another couple that are about to fall on my fence and another few that are probably going to fall on my garage. So what we've kind of done is take it upon ourselves to do some preservation back there. And it's very, I can't think of the word right now, but it's tender. And so there's been some increased activity back in the row. Some trees have been cleared by the entry to the row. And we've seen a lot more foot traffic back there. And a majority of that traffic is walking in the critical line and stepping on a lot of the planting that we've done back there. So we're worried. The only activity we've seen the city do back there is actually when I called them because I had a tree that was about to fall on my garage. And not only did they remove that tree, but they removed about 26 other trees that were actually sustaining the shoreline. So we were a bit surprised that those were removed. They were kind of doing the exact, opposite of what we think they should have been doing. Those actually weakened the shoreline and made it worse. One of the things you may not notice from this picture, but if at the Hofstrom's yard, which is the second one in, there's only about 4 feet from their property line to the critical line on the marsh. And so, the saying that we're restricting access into the row by putting up a fence, let's just say a fence wasn't there, you don't really have access into the row. You can't get a vehicle back there. You might be able to get a very, very small walk behind skid steer back there. The only way that they were able to get back there and remove the trees were to go on mine and Eric Hofstrom's private property. So there's really not much restriction that we're talking about doing. Another thing that's I think very interesting is if you stand at the row and you look, and you're standing, and that's Bill, is why I wanted you to come down there and look at it. And Mr. Mayor, thanks for coming by on Friday. I'm glad I have our opportunity to meet you back there. But we both stood and looked at the entrance to the row, and it's very deceiving. When you're at the row, it looks or appears that the row goes a certain way, but it doesn't. It actually veers off to the left. And so most people who go into the row walk straight into our yards or into our private property. So the majority of the traffic that's going back there, whether it's we've called the police or not, the majority of them are going into Eric Hofstrom's yard and into my yard. And very few are actually setting foot in the row. And the ones that do are actually probably walking on the critical line set out by DHEC and stepping on plantings that we've done to try and reinforce the row. So I 100% agree with the city's view that, hey, we should hang on to shoreline and preserve it. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. And by putting a gate in there, we feel it's going to, increase the safety, but it's really a tertiary request. The main request is to keep foot traffic out of there so that they're not walking on all the planting that we've done. So, and I would argue that if we didn't do it, that 4 feet in front of Eric Hofstrom's yard would probably be gone and you wouldn't have any row at all. The other thing is we're proposing an 8-foot gate. So I'm not really sure how putting an 8-foot gate in prohibits the city from accessing their row. That's kind of the issue I've had. And I submitted some questions into Bill, and I really didn't get a clear answer on that. And that question is how does putting an 8-foot gate limit the city's ability to get into that row? It doesn't. It's innocuous. It's just open the gate and drive your vehicle in. The purpose of the gate is to prohibit people just from walking by and saying, oh, I should go wander back there and end up in private property, and to try to reduce some of the theft issues that we've had. So I'm on board with the city's plan. I want to fortify the shoreline too when it's needed, perhaps, after my lifetime. But we think putting that gate in is going to be the best way to help sustain that.
Okay, all right, Mr. Clancy. Number one, thanks for coming on, and I'm glad you did speak up. I'm going to recognize Councilman Shaheen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could ask a series of questions, and Tom, can you take your cursor and show us exactly where the gate would be that he's proposing?
Who's
I
actually-
apologize. I was referring to Bill or Tom as Bill. Sorry about that. I was thinking about my neighbor down the street. Tom, apologize.
Julia, can you show them where the gate is proposed?
Yes, sir. Where would the gate that he's asking, the applicant is asking to locate?
Julia, can you?
Mm,
Chelsea, I believe.
Uh-oh.
yeah.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Did we lose Tom?
That's Julia. Julia's the one who has the map up. I'm having screen problems also, but you see, right, Councilmember Shea, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So when
Yeah,
you're moving your
sure.
cursor up and down, you're talking about a gate right there?
That's
Yes.
not the location actually that we proposed.
Can someone give us a better idea where that gate?
I can tell you where it is if you like. Whoever can hear me. If
Sure, we
you,
can hear you
put-
good.
Yeah, if you put that cursor, if you slide it to the left to that corner of the right entry to the right of way, which is go down the corner of that lot, right. There's that lot that ends in 3065. That's the board's property. If you go from the corner of that lot and you shoot it at probably an angle that goes towards 12 o'clock, yeah, just like that. That's where we're proposing putting the gate. It's right at the entry to the row. There is a small, what we call devil strip property that's owned by someone that's 8 feet wide on the marsh side of the property, and we did not want to obstruct access to that particular property.
Well, let me ask a question.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just sort of follow back up with a few
Okay,
more.
sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to interrupt, but that's,
No,
So
go ahead.
so the properties that are to the left of this, those are that apartment complex that shows all those TMS numbers.
No, those are actual condos.
Condos, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
the condos over there. And what is this property? If you walk out of your backyard and take a hard right, there looks like some kind of structure there at the very end, sort of tucked in that tree line.
that's my garage.
That's your
Oh,
garage.
that property over there, way to the right. Yeah, that's it's Bill Folk's property. They actually, I think it was in 2003, he put a request in because there was some high crime in his area to deed the right of way to him specifically.
So everything that's showing us TMS number that ends in 081 and 082 and 002, that's undeveloped land. And that's land that can never be developed because it's marshland, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's owned by the state.
It's owned by
No.
the state.
No, it's not owned by the state.
It is owned by the state. There's
081.
yeah, those are owned by the
081
state.
is- Hang on, 081.
Sorry,
is-
Ross.
081
Yeah,
is-
let's recognize one person at a time.
081 is privately owned.
Is it land that can be developed? That's my question.
Well, Councilmember Pell, you addressed it, so can you expand?
Yeah, I mean, whoever's on controlling the GIS, click 081 and see what shows up under property owner.
But the real question is, can it ever be developed? That's marshland, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
and
it's-
if I
it's
may
tough to
be allowed to
develop.
comment, just let me know
No,
when.
hold on a second, Mr. Gladstein.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
One person at a time. I'll come back to you. First, Councilman Shea, are you finished with your question?
No, I just trying to make a point here that this is I grew up in this area, so I know this very, very well. And I'm familiar with, and I've talked to Mr. Gladstone's wife earlier this morning to get a better feel for what's going on here. And I know the premise is not to block this. It's public land essentially, but to accomplish what they're accomplishing, I'm concerned about their public safety. This is what this is really boiling down to. That and trying to preserve this land. And unless we've got an alternative of how to accomplish this, this seems like a very easy fix to get that done.
Well, let me get some clarification. The gate that's being asked for, is this a gate for the city to control? Or this would be a gate that private property owners we control. Mr. Gladstein, can you answer that?
We didn't include that into our proposal, and
Okay.
our intent was not, if we were in control of it, was not even to lock it. It's just an innocuous border or innocuous symbol to say, hey, look, please don't wander back here.
I got you. So
Yeah,
the request, well, may I say the request is for the city to put a fence in, or?
We had volunteered to put that fence in.
Okay, all right. Now the mayor has had his hand up for a while. Let me recognize the mayor.
Well,
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Gladstein. I was glad to see y'all out there the other day. I just stopped by in anticipation of our conversation today. And I clicked those properties, by the way, Councilmember Shade. 081 is privately owned, but it has a little strip of land there along the edge of it, the western edge of it. I don't think it's developable, but you can walk down there. And then 082 and 002 are actually owned by the city of Charleston, and mostly Marsh, just for verification. And I expressed the other day when I was out there, I guess my main point would be allowing private citizens to put gates on public right-of-way. I generally don't think that's a good idea. I do believe if the city wanted to, help control access there, that we could put up our own bollard system. Right. And it might just be a simple chain or something. I'd also recommend we put some signage out there, letting folks know that this area is under police jurisdiction. It certainly is. And, if with the issues that are described, if the neighbors felt it would be helpful for a little bollard system to go up there along with some signage, I think that would be a reasonable course. And I appreciate their offer to volunteer to put a gate up there. But I think if we would to do something like that, it should be done, to what the city would normally do, to our standard or whatever.
I certainly agree with that. Any other comment?
Wouldn't that solve the issue? I would hope so.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes, sir.
I certainly like your input on this. When you were thinking about, discussion came up with a fence, or even you heard the mayor about bollards or with signage and stuff, were you thinking in terms of the city doing something, or your mindset with private owners doing it?
Agree with the mayor. Private citizens putting fences and obstructions on public property are kind of concerned. But if there is a need, and indeed we could work with Jason in the Parks Department and come up with some bollards and some signage and some chains to post that area, and do that to help alleviate some of the concerns that Mr. Gladstein has. But we just don't feel it was a good idea for private citizens to be placing fences and things in
I agree.
public.
Okay. Definitely agree with that.
That's the main reason we denied it. And again, we at the request of the committee, we did go and check with the police, and even though Mr. Gladstein, I have no doubt he may have some other issues, but all we have to go on are the police reports that are available to us, and very little activity basically based on those reports in the last year.
I understand both angles. I'm gonna recognize Councilmember Bowden and then come to Councilman Shade. Councilman Bowden hadn't been recognized yet, and then Appel. Councilman Bowden.
Thank you. And I guess I'm gonna have to go out there and check out this area, since I think this is the third time this has come before City Council in my very short time here. So it frankly seems like there's something a little bit more than going on out there than what's been presented at any time. Seems like we kind of keep trying to go different routes here. So I have two questions. Number one, can anybody substantiate this issue with the erosion? I'm interested to know what real problem is causing this request. I'm very, very uncomfortable with the idea of restricting public access to public property. And that's sort of where I come down. I mean, frankly, it seems to me that if folks are willing to build fences the proper place for a fence would be on their own property.
Okay, I mean, I agree with you on that. Councilmember Shaheen, and I think Councilmember Pell, did you have your hand up and take it down? Or you want to be recognized?
Yeah,
Let me recognize Councilmember Shaheen, and then I'll come to you.
Well, he hasn't had a chance to talk yet, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay, all right, good.
Pell.
Councilmember
Yeah.
Pell.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I mean, I really don't have a whole lot more to add from what Councilman Bowden just mentioned, but I just think as a general matter, you know, we don't privatize public rights away around here. And the parcel, you know, that ends in 081 is privately owned. And yes, you cannot build a house out there. You can't develop it. But if you wanted to launch a kayak from there, if you wanted just to walk through there, you absolutely have the right to do it. And you need to access the public right of way to get there. And if there's concerns about trespassing and things of that nature, I think between the bollards and the postings that we're talking about, coupled with building a fence on your property, that's how we solve these issues. So I can tell you there are disputes between the neighbors here, and there is more of a story. And I think we shouldn't be restricting the ability for people to access their private property through the public right of way. Thanks.
Okay, Councilman Shaheen.
Yeah, I just have a question. We're talking about blocking public access, but if you put up a chain and bollards out there, aren't you doing the same thing?
Well, I don't think you restrict them
I think you
pedestrian there.
restrict vehicles, but not,
Yeah.
I mean, technically, somebody could walk on the property. And
Well, if you put up a gate there, and the gate's is available to be open, you're not denying people access that way either. This is more of a, as he said, more of a symbolic thing. I mean, if you go put up bollards and chains, you're blocking access. If you put up a gate that is open that you can swing back and forth without any locks on it, you're doing the same thing. It's just more of a symbolic issue then.
Well, that's true, but I think one other thing can happen here as well. I mean, Mr. Mayor, you may remember on Ashley Hall Plantation Road, we had a new flat bridge that the county put in. You had some people putting obscenities, painting obscenities on the bridge, and what our police department did is actually put a camera up on a you know, Dominion power pole to pick up nefarious activity there. So if you've got some negative activity going in the bollards, it shows presence with the signage, and then obviously you can put a camera up there too to kind of pick up some of the bad actors that Mr. Gladstein may be referring to here. So I think a more presence, city presence, signage, bollards, we won't restrict pedestrians. I think we should do something there. Mr. Mayor?
So right now, it kind of looks like a driveway, and maybe chain isn't a good description. I was thinking more like we have on the Greenway, you know, where at every street that the Greenway comes to, you have bollards that are close enough that you can't just drive a car through there, but you can walk through, and
Right.
you know, the vegetation back there is maybe another issue that we should ask parks to maintain a little more than they have in the past. But I mean, with all due respect, I mean, you're not supposed to be just walking out in the marsh, you know, and if someone's doing that, I think there's DNR wouldn't like that very much. I don't know how much of that is really occurring, but you know, that I concur the whole area could be cleaned up a little better. And I was a little concerned looking at that picture we had just a minute ago, that further past Gladstein's house, that somebody's got another building on our right of way. I could be wrong, but from that picture, it looked like somebody was encroaching on the right of way further on down the so-called Third Avenue.
We can't get Miss Copeland, are you back with us yet? Yes, no. She
Mr.
came off
Chairman,
mute.
can I ask one more question?
Yeah, Councilmember Shea. Yeah.
Mr. Gladstone, are your adjoining neighbors opposed to this?
No, they favor it actually. And one thing I want to note about I have a garage back there, so I use that right away to drive. And I have permission from the Hofstroms to drive through their yard and a small portion of the right of way. You can't fit a car down the whole right of way. So the bollards bollards, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that terminology, would block our own vehicles from getting to our own garage. The other comment I wanted to make is about that parcel. That parcel that is not, they do not own the marsh.
They don't.
Ross, we can get 5 environmental attorneys on this call and they do not own it. I'm not trying to be a know-it-all. We've examined it thoroughly. Unless you have a King's Grant, you don't own a marsh. That's the exact reason why you have to get DHEC involved if you want to put a boat dock in, because they have jurisdiction, it's state jurisdiction. As the shorelines erode and evolve, that becomes state property. That's just commonly known by environmental lawyers. So they own a 180 square foot parcel that's 8 feet wide. It's insignificant. But our proposal said, hey, look, we don't want to interfere with it. But our main interest is really just to take care of the marsh and make sure there's no erosion control. So DHEC was pretty concerned when they came out and saw it that the kind of the condition of the marsh out there with people pulling kayaks on it, and they just said you need to stay out of it.
Mr. Gladstone kind of looks like, the part about the driveway I thought we had working towards a solution on this.
No, I was excited myself. That's why, I think some, chains as a distraction. We actually had put a camera out there and some signs, and someone stole our signs. I mean, I know who did it, but I'm not someone who calls police on people, but it just, we've tried a handful of things, so.
Well, let me kind of call it in. We've had a roundabout of this discussion here.
Mr. Chairman, I think Julia just signed on again.
Okay, great. Attorney I'll save you, Ms.
Can you hear me? Sorry about that.
We sure can, loud and clear. Great, sound great.
So to answer your question, Mayor, about the structure on 3rd Avenue, that garage is not legally sitting on private property. That is sitting on a public right of way. That conversation was struck up last time there was an issue with 3rd Avenue before this board or this body. So that is something that we're going to have to address.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I believe the registered owner of the lot ending in 8-1 is on this call as well. Andy Gowder is representing him. So he might want to speak to what Mr. Gladstone said about the ownership, although I don't know if this is really the appropriate place to be talking about that.
Well,
hold up, Mr. Gowder.
yes.
I think there may be a better opportunity to speak about that.
Yeah.
About this. I don't want to get neighbors going after neighbors, not on the Public Works Committee meeting. How would you, Ms. Copeland, recommend we address Mr. Gowder and their concerns on this one? Can you all speak, beyond this meeting, and then you report back?
Sure, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, why don't we do that and then kind of find out? Let's defer. Well, I can't make a motion as chair, but why don't we defer this one? Let our attorneys get a little bit more information on some of the questions we asked them about ownership and all of that, and then talk about this at the next meeting. That's my recommendation as chair. I can't make that motion as chair.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is anybody going to second that motion?
Yeah, I'll second it as long as we can get the answer to that, because I was sort of interested to hear what that conversation was going to be.
Well, do you have it, Councilman Brown? Do you have any, observations or questions that you would like Ms. Copeland to address on this situation when she comes back?
No, I think we're good. I just
okay, great.
All right, perspective.
Okay, Councilman Appel, Ms. Tecklenberg, you have any final comments before I call the question?
All good. Thanks.
All right, let's call for the motion to refer. All in favor, would you please say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining in, Mr. Goldstein and Mr. Gowder, and I look forward to whoever comes back to us 2 weeks from now.
Wherever you report next time, sir.
Okay, thank you. Item H,
Mayor, Mr.
No,
Chairman, we have,
number three, G3.
I'm sorry. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. G3. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
yes, sir. I'm gonna let Matt, Matt and I've been working on this, and Matt, you want to give the background here as to how this was added to the agenda? I think the request of Councilmember Gregory, and I think Councilmember Ware, you may have had a question regarding this also. So Matt, give a little on this.
Sure.
Yeah, so we had a resident who was elderly, medical condition, had a contractor come out, mow the yard, didn't haul off the debris. The resident called in, stated that she had a contractor do the debris, generate the debris, and we explained to her that we don't haul contracted debris from landscapers or contractors off, that the contractor or landscaper is responsible for that. And one thing led to another, and next thing I know, there was calls from Councilman Parker and some of them asking for us to revisit this contracted debris removal process.
Okay, Councilmember Appel.
So I guess the theme of today's Public Works and Utilities Committee meeting is privatizing public goods. It's an interesting theme to have. I think contractors need to take care of their own business, and the city shouldn't be providing that service for free. It's astounding how much we do for free around this city. My wife grew up in Atlanta, and every time we're walking around and we see refrigerators on the side of the road, and you don't see that in Sandy Springs. You don't see that in most places. We're already extraordinarily generous with what we do for free when it comes to debris removal for our citizens. We do not need to be doing free debris removal for businesses. Are you kidding me? That's my comment.
Councilmember Bowden.
I do feel very bad for this lady. I spoke to her. Sounds like she's struggling with an illness and has some extenuating circumstances, and I just feel bad for her. But I have to agree with Councilmember Appel that actually this kind of jogged my memory that last year around this time when things started to get backed up from a whole lot of yard waste and debris, and it seemed like a lot of it was being left on the side of the road from contractors, that we had discussed an ordinance to limit what we were picking up. And I was just kind of curious. I think we had asked for some more information and wanted that to come back. Is that going to come back to us?
Yes. Mr. Madden, I can address that. Yes, sir. One thing you may recall when we did talk about that, we had some pricing involved. And I think at the request of the committee, we went back and looked at maybe reducing or eliminating some of those costs. So Matt and I are very close, and we will give you a report next meeting on when we can bring actually those ordinance changes back. I would think probably maybe sometime in May. Matt, aren't we pretty close? Because all we got to do, Julia has reviewed everything we've done. It'll just be a matter of bringing it back to y'all for the ordinance changes. So look to see that very soon. Matt, you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And like Councilman Appel and Bowden said, that if we start picking up contracted debris, we're going to open up Pandora's box. There's going to be debris everywhere, and we're already short staffed. We have limited amount of equipment. I spoke with Dan Riccio in Livability, and he shared the same concerns that we are just going to have a huge amount of debris out there that we're not going to be able to clean up in a timely manner, because if we eliminate it for one, we have to do it for all.
Let me ask Councilmember Shea.
Yeah, this is Matt and I have talked about this in the past. So Matt, when these contractors, they have to be licensed, and right, I have a business license, and they're informed, aren't they, in advance about their obligations to they go out there, they do the cleanup and the lawn work. And they're notified in advance that their responsibility is to haul the stuff off, right?
That is correct. And, you know, a lot of these contractors and landscapers build in the fee to haul the stuff off, but they collect that extra money when they don't haul it off. So they don't have to pay the landfill. So they're already billing a lot of the residents that money and not hauling it off because they leave it on the curb for us. So that's just extra income in their bottom line. And I think this will actually come back in June. We actually had Raf Tellis looking at this for us as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, let me ask this. I get my grass cut and there are 3 bags of clippings out front. I put them out front, the city carries them. I hire a landscaper, he cuts my grass, and he puts 3 bags of grass clippings out front. Under this scenario, the landscaper has to carry it.
That's correct. Any debris generated by a contractor or landscaper must be removed by that contractor or landscaper.
And you see, that's the part that I think, you know, we live in an aging community. I mean, aging of America is just flat out happening. And to me, contracted debris seems like more than what the homeowner himself would put out. And I think that's the gray area that has to be satisfied. You know, a widow person or a disabled person who just physically can't do it, or certainly a 75-year-old who just doesn't want to do it anymore. I understand when you have an overabundance of stuff, but normal grass clippings, I think people pay in their taxes to get some of that stuff done. And just because you let's say you hired the kid next door who was in the business cutting grass going down the neighborhood. Somehow we need to do a better compromise than if a landscaper cut your grass and put the same amount of clippings to the edge that was done when you cut it yourself. I don't think that should be an extra expense to the property owner, to the homeowner. Now you got a landscaper coming in and doing business, taking up plants, putting down new plants, putting the old plants to the road. I'm with you on that. Okay, you cut down trees and you stack up a cut up tree all to the side of the road. I'm with you on that. But I guess how do we determine normal yard debris? You know, you said the contractor charges extra for that, and I agree with you on that. But that homeowner is also paid some property taxes that include some of that service being rendered. How can we cut it to 0 and continue to charge the same amount of tax?
So, you know, that's something we can define when we bring that back with the limits, you know, maybe we could put something in there at that time, you know, if we limit the bags that they can put out, then that may help address some of these.
Right. I agree with you. And I remember one time you all had some slides, I think, showing, I don't know, 25, 30 bags, you know, out at the side of the road. I mean, obviously that ain't normal, but somehow there's some stuff that people just don't do anymore it's not anymore over and above when they did it themselves. That's out to the street. Councilman Bowden, I see your hand.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was getting at as well. I was just curious that there's got to be some, you know, and it sounds like that's what we're working on defining in the ordinance, some ordinary waste that we will pick up. And I think that just typical yard waste would fall under that. But yeah, I mean, we got to differentiate that from if somebody's getting trees cut down or something. That company's obviously got to take that stuff themselves and you know, charge accordingly. So I think this ordinance, when it comes back, will differentiate that. So thanks for that update, guys.
Okay. Any Mr. Mayor, you have any additional comments on this?
Well, I think I'll just wait until we bring the matter back.
Okay, good.
In June, we had talked about this before. I'll just note that, you know, I have a neighbor, elderly lady, and she has a landscaping service come cut her grass. They put about 2 bags out every other week, you know, of clippings in the designated bags. And, you know, our trash collectors would never know whether she had a landscaper doing that or doing it herself, and it's not a overbearing amount. So it seems to me particularly when it comes to yard debris, that it's the amount that we have to maybe focus on, unless it's just apparent, that some contractor is doing the work. It seems more so issue to me where it's construction debris like lumber and other construction type debris.
Right.
And again, you get into the volume of it, because I know contractors who are wise enough to keep their little piles out there small enough to where it doesn't bring any attention. In fact, I know a landscaping, I don't know him, I know a pile, I know a place where a landscaper puts his debris and it gets picked up by the city, and it's not even in front of somebody's yard, and he does this on a regular basis. I've never got my eye on him, and I walk the neighborhood a lot, but I wonder how much of that kind of stuff goes on. And not big amounts, but he's there consistent, always putting something out for us to pick up when he's charging somebody else for it. It just doesn't seem right.
Right. So anyway, we stay tuned on that, Mr. Alltop, until you bring back something more specific. Thank you, Mr. Alltop. Now, H1, update on South Carolina Office of Resilience, AREA Stormwater, Mr. Fountain.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the first item is basically an update on a grant that we had previously approved applying for through the South Carolina Office of Resilience, their ARPA funding, which they assigned for stormwater infrastructure projects. I've got a quick graphic that I will share, but I will keep it relatively brief. So the Office of Resilience received 76 applications for this ARPA funding. They ended up awarding 17 projects for about $50 million of funding, and the Barbary Woods Drainage Improvement Project has been notified it will receive $4.6 million of that available funding. So the map on the right is where the projects were awarded in green. The blue is from a previous award through their HUD CDBG MIT grants, which is what's funding the Earhart project. So continuing good news on the grants front for the stormwater projects.
Congratulations on that, man. I'm gonna tell you, some years ago, before you came, Mr. Fountain, we had a National League of Cities meeting in DC, and I didn't go, but Council Member Shealy did, and you may remember, Mr. Mayor, a lot of talk about hiring grant writers for the city, and it certainly has been paying off. I'll put it like that, and we appropriated money to do just that. So thank you so much. These people over in Barbary Woods, they need the help. I know we need more money, but this certainly helps get us down the path of what we need to kind of get it done. So great work. Councilmember Bowden? Well, I saw your hand up.
Oh, sorry, that was up from earlier.
Oh, no problem. Any other comments? All right, Mr. Fountain, great work. H2.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is just a brief update on a completed project for our check valve program. This was an installation of one very large check valve, one of the largest one we've installed, 60 inches in diameter, and then a smaller secondary check valve in the flooding that occurs on Washington Street near the entrance to Union Pier as you come through Lawrence. So we did complete installing these check valves. It's a collaborative project where the South Carolina Ports Authority and CWS both contributed equally into this project to about what the city's matching in its side of the project. Obviously, there's a benefit to CWS for reducing pressure on their sewer system and their sanitary sewer overflow risk, benefit to the port, and that this road also serves as access into the port property. And a benefit to the city is that's an intersection that still sees quite a bit of traffic and has some housing adjacent to it. So we've installed those. Seemed pretty dry this morning. We will be continuing to check on it to see if there's any smaller side pipes that we didn't catch until we install the base protection. But yeah, early indications are good. I think it's always nice to highlight these projects because it we had a almost 8-foot tide last night and really only had 2 major road closures in the city, where if you think back to 5 or 10 years ago, we used to have 7-foot tides, a whole foot lower, that would shut off huge portions of the peninsula. So getting
That's
a long,
great.
long way with a lot of the work that Mr. Newham's done and identifying locations for check valves and trying to keep those streets open for us.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. Can you, if you ballparked it, how much did this project cost?
So this is expensive because of the size of those valves. That's why we did a cost sharing agreement. So this is about a $300,000 project, but we have CWS contributing $100,000 and the port contributing $100,000. So we leveraged about $100,000 of city funding to do this work.
Right, right. But I mean, in terms of drainage projects and the benefit you get out of that, I mean, that's a lot of bang for the buck, man. Congratulations on that. Thank you so much for reaching out to allies on that one.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. And I think the fact that those other entities were so willing to contribute that kind of money, it shows how much value there is in these projects. Because you're right, if you tried to build a pump station or do something else to handle that flooding, you'd be spending millions of dollars.
That's right.
Rather than a few $100,000.
Oh man, keep up. That's great, man. Keep up the good work. Any more good news like that? We'll stay another hour if you got more. Mayor Tecklenburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to pile on a little more, Charleston Water Service, they save money over long haul because these check valves prevent some of this tidal water from getting into the sewer system in other places. So that's less water that they have to just process over at Plum Island.
Right.
So it's a good deal for them. And then I just want to shout out to the Port Authority and to Miss Melvin, because I made the request, I bet a year ago, way before the Union Pier, project coming forward. And I let her know the cost of this thing and asked her if she would share a third of the cost of it. And she didn't even blink an eye. She said, no problem. We'll be glad to cover our share. And I think it just shows a willingness on their part, even beyond what might happen with the future of Union Pier, to take action now. If there's any reasonable improvements that can be made, they put their money where their mouth is. So I want to thank her and the Port Authority for being our partner on this.
Okay. I agree with you. Thank you for bringing that observation up. Any final comments? Beyond that, we had a great meeting. Look forward to seeing all of you all tomorrow.